interesting. They gave him dietary advice. They said, from now on, eat kach v'kach and you'll be okay. You know? Now that's a very fascinating thing, and it's becoming very, very, very good, well known today and popular. Becoming very popular. The people are very much into, properly, in most cases, into diet. You know. So a Roifi can give you advice as to what. And the Rambam, me Godolanu Rambam, in Hilchos Dayas, at the beginning of the Rambam says, I'm going to give you a whole Seder, how to act with your food and exercise. And he said, Misha says, Lo yechoy liolam. The Rambam said, whoever will listen to me, he will never be sick. So come along, certainly the great Rishonim, and they were furious, you know. They said, how can he dare say anything like that, you know? Chas v'sholom, you know, but we're all just dependent on what we eat. And so they want to say that maybe he's got a point after all, the Rambam. But in Kitzonius, or in Pneumius, and who knows what, how you relate to Hashem. Hashem is the one that's really in charge. And so some people say the Rambam doesn't disagree with that. He also means in Kitzonius. You follow? Okay, so that's the picture that we've gone so far. So now I want to tell you another little story, but this is very brief. And that is that when I was in Bnei Brak, over all the years, particularly when I was considerably younger than I am now, I used to go around and I was very friendly with all the booksellers, and there's quite a few of them. Nowadays a lot more than in my day. And I was very friendly with more than middle-aged Gera Chossid. He was a big bucky in Sfarim, and he had a bookstore. He was very much into Sfarim and everything. So I used to go every Friday. I would try to visit him. And most times I came away with something. So one Friday I come in, and he says to me, he says, Gafne, I've got you a safer. He said, you must have this safer. So I said, I was accustomed to that type of approach. You know, he wasn't unfair. He was only trying to, because he knew I had a craze for Sfarim. So I said, what's this? What is the sefer? So he said, it's a sefer called the Tiferes Uziel. That's the name. I said, yeah, Shalom Aleichem. Well, what's it? So he said, the Maggid of Mezrich had a Talmud called the Rabbeinu Uziel Meiselish. That was his name. Uziel Meiselish. And he was a very holy person. And he wrote a little sefer called Tiferes Uziel. He said, you must buy this. He said, this is Mommy's book. And so it's not and I was looking, I thought I had it here, because all my Sfarim were all around the place, in different cellars and different places. So I must have left it in one of these cellars. I couldn't find it. I looked where I thought it was, and I couldn't find it. But I know by heart what I'm going to tell you now. The Tiferes Uziel. So he was also a big Gaon in Nigla. And he wrote a sefer in Hilchos Shabbos. I have that also, but that's for sure, in Begin and Asala. He wrote a sefer in Hilchos Shabbos, and he called it Menorah Samoya, or something similar to a similar name to one of the great authors for him. Anyway, it's an amazing sefer, and it's tremendously learned in Nigla, it's tremendously deep and everything. So, the question just arises, how to call it a curious question. Did he know the Alter Rebbe, who was a Talmud from the Maggid? So we don't hear that the Alter Rebbe ever mentioned him or anything. However, there's a document that the Maggid got all his Talmidim, or all of them, or a lot of them, to sign. It was a certain announcement to do with halacha. I don't want to just want to go into it. I would have to brush my memory up with you what it was all about. And so the great Rabbonim, that they were big Rabbonim, what most of them, the Talmidei Amagid were like that, they signed on this cruise. So you got the Alter Rebbe and a couple of names further. You got the Heilige Bedicheva, and and then a few lines further down, Uziel Meiselish, as they say there. Yeah. So if the Alter Rebbe and him signed on the same cruise, then they must have known one another, or they must have known who they are. But anyway, more than that, I can't tell you. So, if you look up on this pasuk, and it's a very rare thing because most Meforshim don't really relate to this pasuk, Rafoi Yerafei, that he has to pay the thing. Comes along the Tuferes Uziel, and he says a very fascinating thing. He says, what's up with Rafoi Yerafei? You have to pay a doctor. What are you doing going to doctors? What is he doing? Why would the Torah even suggest that? Elamai, we're talking about people that they're quarreling, and they're clapping one the other. Then they're probably not thinking clearly, They're not into, and so they think that you have to have a doctor. Oh, but you really don't. He said you have to go only to the Eibishter. And then he writes, that's what's written, Im Yokum v'yisalek pachutz. He said that's moving. If he can walk in the house, that's not a sign that he's healthy. He's got to be able to walk outside. So why Im Yisalek pachutz, he will go around on the outside? You know what he says? He's going around on the outside of the divine hashgacha. He's put himself outside of Hashem's hashgacha prati. And he said, anybody who goes to a doctor is somebody that's outside of Hashem's hashgacha. That's what he meant. So, when I saw that, my eyes just jumped out of stalks, and I fell off my chair, but I picked myself up again. And that's what he says. And that's what I remember it was this part of the year, and he said, I want you to see this, and he opened the Sefer and he showed me that passage. That's why I remember it so well. And he writes, if you go, Yisaleh, if you get up, and Yisaleh Bachutz, you take yourself out of the divine Hashgacha, then you have to have doctors. But if you believe in Hashgacha Pratius, you don't need a doctor. So, because you're bound up to say every minute is only Hashem, every movement, every second, it's all Hashem. So he calls, let him look after it. Just turn to him and say, listen, Hashem. And you don't really even need to turn to him if you're all right. But if you need to do a bit of tshuva, then that's going to really help. Yeah? And Gedei l'tshuva shemei v'yirufua. That will help a great deal. You follow? And that will renew your kesher. That will renew your kesher with the Rabbeinu Shalom. Oh. And so how do you call it? The Ebenezer brings, and he also brings it over there, the Tiferes Uziel, that later on in Divrei Hayomim we're told about one of the kings, and he was called Asor, Melech Asor. There was a whole thing, but he became like sick. He had a certain, how do you call it, skin problem. It's a whole story how it happened, and listen to it. Anyway, so it's written that he had a whole problem, and because he was a king, he wanted to get healed, so he went to a lot of doctors. Yeah? And the pasuk says, it's a pasuk in Divrei Hayom. The pasuk says he went to doctors, but he didn't turn to Hashem, as he stated. And the reason people don't bring that because it's way over in Divrei Hayom. And it's right over, sort of the end of the Nach, you're going to be a big bucky in Nach, to pick out that pasuk. He didn't turn to Hashem Ki'im larufim, as I say, he didn't turn to Hashem, and that's why he didn't have success. But had he turned to Hashem, Gumti Sofi, that would have been taken away. Had he turned rightfully to Hashem, it would have been taken away. That's how people learn what the Ibn Ezra mean. So you might say, well, we're sort of getting in deep here. So, if you think it's only the Tiferes Uziel that says that, then you're mistaken. Milanu, who is greater to the whole Jewish people than the Ramban. You've all heard of the Ramban. Yeah? So the Ramban, outside of Rashi, the Ramban is the big authority in all, explanation of the written scriptures. The Ramban. Yeah. So you should realize that the Ramban in Pasha B'chukoisai, he says just exactly what the Tiferes Uziel said, but sharp, very, very sharp. And the Ramban, you've all seen a Yid before? And the Ramban says a very amazing thing. And the Ramban says that since we believe that everything is Hashem, and we believe in this Hashgacha Pratias, if you have anything, then you have to only turn to Hashem. You have to turn to Him and leave it up to Him. He will look after it because He is with you and everything is Him. So he said, if you rely on nature, the Ramban says, he said, if you rely on nature, then you take yourself out of the divine Hashgacha and you go to nature. So the divine says, oh, you're going to nature? So let nature look after you, man. And so what are you going to do? You're going to have to go to a doctor here and here. So, if you didn't turn to nature, then you would have stayed within the Hashgacha. And he said the Hashgacha is on every detail, every prat, but only by Chasidov Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Chassidim of the Eibishter. He said those who are emes of Chassidim of the Eibishter, they the whole time are bound up to Hashem, and He looks after them. When they get sick, He heals them. You know? And he said, Ma l'roifim babayis shema'aminim b'Hashem. He said, what are you doing with doctors in a house that people believe in the Eibishter? And he said, Ein lanu chelik b'roim. He writes very sharp, the Ramban. He writes very, very powerful. So kumtois, that this is a whole shitta. You follow? The Ramban he's one of the Yesodis of the whole of Yadus, the whole Yiddishkeit. They're based on the Ramban. So the Tiferes Uziel, and he was a big Talmud, he was involved in the central round circle of the Magid. It's very likely that that's what a lot of the Talmidei Magid heard. That's what they heard. And that's what was, how do you call it, the accepted type of message of American toys, that you are under Hashem, and Hashem is everything. We're all under, and we're all part of Him. If we go outside that, and you've gone outside, and that's exactly what the Tiferes Uziel said. Im yisalek b'chutz, if you go on the outside, then you have to have a doctor, and then you can deal with the doctor who's on trade. But if you were only to do what emes hashgacha implies, then you wouldn't be outside, you would be inside. And even if you're outside, for Gashmis, you're inside. You're inside the divine protective Harikot. Lafi said, if we think because he writes a very sharp the Ramban, and he goes out, he writes sharp about those people who don't accept that, the Ramban. And usually, he's very tremendously, how would you call it, full of amazing intellect and divine development of argument, and the Ramban. You read it, sharp. you know. Oh, he said that we're now moving into the area of the Baal Shem Tov, because the Baal Shem Tov said that everything is Hashgacha Prati, everything is the Eibishter. You follow? Cool. So he didn't make any difference. He didn't say you have to be in it or you're not in it. He just said, everything is Hashem. So the Rebbe's got a famous contrast, about the Hashgacha Pratius. So the Rebbe writes there that it could be that the Ramban and the Baal Shem Tov are not, they don't differ, because a lot of people say they do. The Rebbe says no, because all the Ramban is saying is that it's got a bit of a condition. If you tune in, then you're under everything is Hashem. But if you want to tune out, you want to sort of move out a bit and be a little bit, under nature. So, Omrim, okay, yeah. Bye-bye, go out there. Tisalei bachutz. You go around outside. It's an amazing idea. So the Rebbe wants to say that maybe the Ramban and the Baal Shem Tov don't disagree. You follow? It's an amazing, absolutely amazing picture. So, what we say, Kunta, is that if you are all the time turning to Hashem, and you're all the time realizing that every movement and everything is only Him, then you're not going to get sick, you follow? Because you're all bound up to Him. And if you do, chas v'sholem, for some reason get sick, then maybe you're to blame. You follow? Yeah. And so what is the Eitzah? To tshuva. And that's what the Gemara says, Gedei l'tshuva, shemayvi refuah, not only to you, but to the world. If we just consider it, and think about it a bit more deeply, then we move into a picture where everything in life is basically a pretty simple sort of an equation. As he's looking at me, this guy's a bit, but it's basically a pretty simple equation. Tahainu, that everything is like cause and effect in a very simple way, You're connected with Hashem in that part, fine, everything. Not connected, that's the reason. Fix that up and then everything is going to be good. And we find that in many, many inyanim. We find it in many inyanim. It's brought down that Pliny did tshuva, everything was fixed up. Or we find that a group of people turned back to Hashem, and everything went okay, except in rare cases, And in those rare cases, it could be there were other side effects that were outside at that particular moment, outside that situation, but they interfered. And that's also got a certain relationship of the Hashgacha Prati to that in it. What I kind of lahari was there, to go into all the details. But basically speaking, if you take away the reason, then automatically, the cause, then automatically everything should be all right. That's basically what we're saying. And the Ramban writes it over there very, sharply. That's why the Rebbe Rashab writes in that Maimah that if you have a person that he turned to Hashem pretty, how do you call it, spectacularly, he mamish wept and he did everything, then he went back in a very real way to Hashem, as he should be okay. Everything should, some way or another, work out that he should be able to continue living. So there must have been some reason by Rabbi Elazar ben Dudaya that he didn't continue living, and in that regard, that's like a not perfection part of that whole story. The Alter Rebbe never stops bringing that story. In Tanya, he brings it at the end of Perik Mem Gimel or Mem Dalet. The Alter Rebbe brings it, and all through L'Kutei Torah, everywhere, the greatness of the Baal Tshuva, K'maisa de Rebbe Elazar ben Dordaya, the Alter Rebbe is just, he's so...
Where does it say he did not die? Where does
No, that's in the mind of the Rebbe Rashab. And he's not saying that, he just brings an opinion. But he said it's Mashayin.
Whose opinion?
He just says, I must admit I don't remember. But the Rebbe Rashab says that there's a point to it. It would have been, and that's like a lacking in that Maisa. You follow? That he didn't continually. Yeah. That's an amazing thing. Even though the Alter Rebbe sees him to be such an amazing central figure in his whole idea of Gedela Tshuva, Yesem, Bali Tshuva, Gedelim Yesem Mea Tzadikim. There's a whole, with the Alter Rebbe about. Anyway, Rafi said, Kumtois, the cause and effect is, in Ruchnias particularly, and tshuva and turning to Hashem is a very basic factor that should, and except in very rare cases, which probably there's some other Indian there, it should be in that way. With that, I want to, since we're people that we don't want to hide ourselves from life in this world and so on. That leads me, I want to make a few remarks about what's happening in the world nowadays, at this moment. You follow? What's happening? So, all of a sudden there's appeared in the world this terrible disease. Nobody knows where it came from. It doesn't, medically and physically, nobody quite knows where did it begin, and nobody really knows much about it, how does it actually, it gets passed over from one to another, but they don't really know anything much about it. It just sort of has all of a sudden appeared in human affairs just a few weeks ago.
Maybe a month ago.
What you've got is a whole huge nation that they're being smitten by this, and they could, chas v'sholem, God forbid, that would appear, have a serious effect on them.
Their economy is crashing.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah,
because they're closed altogether. And not only their economy, but they have a big effect on the world.
And some say it's artificial. They made it themselves.
Yeah. Oh.
There's all sorts of theories.
Anyway,
who knows what
it's hard to know. Because you hear so many things that you can talk with somebody who says that he's very informed, he knows everything, and later you'll hear something else that he didn't know, and it's complex. So. I want to suggest to you, and that's what I told Moshe this morning, just very briefly, that we have on Yom Kippur, but Yom Kippur is the day where all the Yidden turn to the Eivishter. And it's like the Rambam says, it's the Yom HaTshuva HaKlali. It's the day of Tshuva klali. And so the Rebbe learns in that a whole amazing Meizen. It's a very high form of Tshuva, a very different form of Tshuva. It's like Nukia to everybody. It's Mitzati Etzem and the Klal, Shebekol Yehudi, and a very high truth. And then in the late afternoon, when we're already getting towards the high pitch point, we're moving, towards Nila, everything. All of a sudden you daven Mincha, and you read in the Torah, then you have a maftir. It's called Maftir Yoina. You probably heard about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Maftir Yoina, the world turns upside down. And you've got people who pay tens of thousands of dollars in certain parts of the world, not here, but in certain parts of the world, to get Maftir Yoina.
Miami?
Anything. And it's well known that our Rebbeim, it was a hechrei, they have to have Maftir Yoina. And there's a whole story with the Rebbe Rashab. I don't know if you know about it, but I haven't got any time to tell you now, because it's quite a long story. But once the Rebbe Rashab wasn't in Lubavitch, and it didn't look as if he would be able to get Mafta Yoin. And then in the most amazing way he did in the end. Yeah. And you know that after the Rebbe became Eidim by the Frierdiker Rebbe, while Frierdiker Rebbe was still president in this world, they had to make a special minyan for the Rebbe that he, once he became son-in-law, he had to have Mafta Yoin. Oh, well, it's a whole big thing, Mafta Yoin. So, what is Mafta Yoina? Mafta Yoina is the Sefer of Yonah. It's the whole Sefer is just a few psukim. It's not all that terribly much. What is Mafta Yoina about? It's about a group of Goyim, Umas Ha'olam, that they live in a huge city, and Yonah, he got his nevuah in the Simras Beis HaShoeva, in the Beis HaMikdash. That's what the Tosfos says in Masechta Sukkah. That's what Tosfos said. However, whatever, Yonah was a very holy person. Yeah. And Hashem said, you have to go. Now, he didn't want to go because he didn't want to be Mekatrik on the Yidden. That's the whole story. You know. He tried to go to sea, and they threw him into the sea and they got some. So after Hashem saves him from the whale and the whole thing, Hashem says to him, listen man, you have to go and tell him what I said. So Yonah goes, and he goes into Nineveh and he tells them, you guys are all going to be finished, that's it. Order Ba'im Yom, finished, destruction. So it's written that what happened. They all did tshuva, each in his own way. We're talking about Goyim, and not particularly elevated Goyim Kamlo. Yeah. They all did tshuva, and it's written that the king of Nineveh, he got up, took off his royal robe, and everything, got up off his throne, took off his royal robe, put on sack, and he sat down, and he also, in his own way, whatever he knew, he tried to do tshuva. You follow? What happens? The Avisha comes to the Yonah and he says, sorry, Yonah, no destruction. Finished. No destruction. Nineveh is not being destroyed. You know? So Yonah says, I can't tell that. I made a nevuah, and the Avisha says, look, you're very holy and you're very precious, but we're talking about tens of thousands of people. We're not destroying Nineveh. That's it. You follow? Challah. We're not destroying Nineveh. So, what do we see? Cause and effect. Yeah? They changed. They did a little bit. They turned to Hashem. They didn't go asking doctors, you follow? They didn't go asking all sorts of political experts, what to do in such a situation, what party, They just turned to Hashem. They said, listen, Hashem, we're sorry, or we go back from what we've done. Whatever, each in his own way. Hashem said, oh, sorry, please. And he said, I've got a problem with my holy knowing. Too bad, unfortunate, no destruction. Yeah. Somebody pointed out to me that Nineveh is the same gematria as sin. Yeah, maybe there's a difference of one here and there or something. Yeah, one is one more than the other. So that's the koilo we have. That's what we call the whole world as well. It's a remnant, you follow. The world is approaching the Geula. Before the Geula comes, we've got to make a bit of a Seder, you follow? You can't have it the way it is. But the world has got to know that they've got to turn to Hashem, you follow? And their Sheva Mitzvah, the Rebbe made a huge fuss about Sheva Mitzvahs, B'nai Noyah. And he said, that's going to prepare the world for Mashiach. And he based himself on the Rambam and the whole Arika. The Rambam writes about nobody else. The Rambam does. Right. A very strong Arika. And anybody who says a good philosophy about the Goyim, and he doesn't mention the Sheva Mitzvahs, that's the Yikah, the Rambam says he's not even a Chacham. Well, he might be a Chacham, but he's not an Emerson one. Aber Mela, it comes to us that everything is based on this basic, like we said, the Tiferes Uziel. He said, if you're on the outside, you're on the outside. But it's very easy to get back in. Just turn to Hashem and say, I'm sorry, Hashem. From what I hear about this China place, it's not a very nice place. They don't keep the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noah anyway.